I'm going to share today a version of the tonglen meditation, but as it was shared yesterday by one of my beloved teachers, Diane Burke, at a one-day retreat on Zoom, the mundane miracle of Zoom, in a day called Soul Nourishment. So as we center in, your eyes may close or just let your gaze soften. Focus your attention on your breath. Simply noticing the rhythm of your breath as you inhale and exhale. Not forcing anything to slow down or deepen, but just to notice. And at the same time, trusting that within just a few breaths, our individual rhythms entrain with each other, reminding us of our interconnectedness. And now sense your body supported, grounding in by noticing the physical sensation of where your body is touching where you sit. Either letting your hands fall open to receive, or letting them rest in your lap or over your heart, sensing your palms and the backs of your fingers, sensing the air around them if they're open, or sensing where they touch your body. Notice the sounds of my voice, the sounds of Pete's beautiful, gentle notes of the piano washing through you and over you. If you're home, noticing the sounds in your own home or wherever you are, but letting them guide you inward. So that as we've checked in with our breath, our physical bodies, check in now with your emotion body. As you settle in, what emotions or feelings arise? And without labeling either good emotion or bad feeling, simply notice. Or maybe think back to how you felt this morning on waking up. Is there a weight of loneliness or grief? Uncertainty? Confusion? Maybe you're feeling the simple pleasure of this weekly connection. Feeling joyful or peaceful, or sensing a rolling wave of different emotions. So say in your heart mind, whatever it is you're feeling, I am lonely, I am grieving, I am happy, I am confused, I am feeling all the things. And now, instead of identifying as that emotion, notice how it feels in your body to say, grief sits here with me. Joy sits here with me. Loneliness is here. Joy, happiness, peace are just in this room of me with me. Can you begin to notice a shift in recognizing you are not your emotions? They are simply friends and teachers here to visit and instruct. And sense that maybe one feeling that sits closest to you in this moment. And as you breathe in and out, connect to everyone in this room or watching from home who may in this moment be experiencing that which sits next to you. And feel yourself connected as you sit with this emotion, sit with this grief, this joy. Feel yourself connected in this space, in this moment. And now widen your awareness to include all those experiencing this same emotion that sits next to you as a friend, whether welcomed or not. All those in this city, in our beautiful state, in our country, all those in places around the world who at this moment sit beside this same feeling. And breathe in and out and feel your connection, your shared human connection, your divine connection beyond all limits of time and space. Sense the faithfulness of that friend, that emotion that sits beside you, that connects your heart to every other heart sitting now. Holding now that tender feeling. Now, thanking that friend, that emotion that has sat beside you. Take a deeper breath now. In and out. And come back now into full awareness of where you are. full awareness of who you are and who we are together. So my message today is going to be a little bit of a look back into the winding path of February's invitation to landing today with not that, because that was going to be the title of the talk that I forgot to go in and change to now. The title of the talk is really, It's All Right. Although it is also connected to where do you see the face of God? It all works. So again, for some of you who are just landing here in the last couple of weeks, I'm going to give you a little snippet of where February has brought me. Because as people say to me, I don't know how you do this every week. I'm like, well, here's how I do this every week, because I have to show up for all of you. So it invites me to show up with the unnameable, omni-nameable beloved that I walk with and as, and all of creation, and do my own work. And so here is the Cliff Notes look behind of February and how I got from love is letting go of fear on February 4th to knowing that where I see the face of God and knowing that it is all right today. So on that Sunday, one of the things I talked about, I showed a picture of a little girl that I only know through a program called Unbound, that in 2016, when I was newly ordained, underemployed, money-wise, overemployed time-wise, I said yes to monthly support of this 7-year-old girl who lives in the Philippines. And it was not just the commitment to her. It was my commitment to my sacred purpose, to saying yes to how grateful I was then and am now into the many, 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 many ways that I have been supported and loved and held through the course of my life, and especially in those years of walking away from one life and into a new life and all that that led me to. So saying yes to Kian, that day that I learned about this program and feeling in my body, oh, I know what my bank account looks like, but I'm going to say yes anyways because I think I need this for me. I need to say yes for me, to feel that I can step in trust, that my needs are met in ways that sometimes surprise me, but that I could partner in a creative way with God to say, I am going to help meet this need. I cannot take care of every child around the world who needs it, but I could help this one young person. And over these ensuing years, I have watched her grow as we exchange letters and photos. So the gift that she is in my life is that steady reminder that I have an opportunity and an opening to let go of my own fearfulness, to listen to it, because it is sometimes there to instruct me about a reality check that I might need to look at and not be in denial. But I also affirm that God is the divine givingness of the universe, and Kian helps me to remember that. So then on the 11th, the way knows the way, I led you right into my fears, into my finger pointing about those people and all of the ways the world today causes anguish in my heart, causes steam to come out my ears on occasion. I talked about the delight that I take in those little grandbabies that I got to see last weekend. And I invited you to think about how has your life unfolded like the story arc of pilgrimage, the story arc of the seasons that we are a part of, that we really get to witness here in the Northeast. And that the life of this way shower, Jesus, we're stepping into Lent, as Diane reminded us, leading from these days of Lent, coming to Easter in a few weeks. What if everything we experience on that way invites us to show up? What if all of it is how God speaks to us? What if all of it that we experience, those emotions that sit beside us, the fear, the loneliness, the grief, that are not us, but that we walk with, that sit with us, that God can use all of that. I shared a quote last week, or that week. God calls us to the fullness of living, which can be manifested in a multitude of ways. That's the gift of our friend Patricia. That's the gift of the faces that you see around here, all of those ways that God has called us. And I reminded myself, because that is how I get here, of the truth that we find our way by walking. Walking with God, walking with each other. We find our way by listening to what those joys and sorrows, our heartaches, our fears are trying to teach us. We find our way by trusting the time in solitude, in quiet, in presence, in conversation, in community, that all of those things help us to listen to God within. They help us to trust that where we are called is what the world needs from us. That I don't need to be Patricia. I don't need to be Carol or Jerry or Pete. I wish I could sing like any one of them. I need to be me. And I'm not called here to tell you to be like me. I'm called here to remind you to be like you. To wake up on your own path by walking as the divine has called you into being. And then last week, I talked about the transforming power of letting go. Because sometimes I let go like this. With clenched hands. Sometimes I let go like this. I'm dancing joyfully and my spirit is letting go of anything else. Yeah, that happens. But I needed to remember that my self-righteousness was doing me harm. That my ability to let go of both self-righteous indignation about the state of the world and what I want other people to change and be fixed, and any sense of my own shame or self-recrimination about not doing enough or what I have done not well enough. God beyond us, God beside us, and God being us wants more than that for us. Not just from us, but for us. That we are invited to feel those things that we clutch, that we hold on to, habits, patterns in relationships, things that keep us from exploring with that divine, beloved, the beyond us presence, the God within. Who are we called to be? And living from that sense of groundedness in the ground of our being. And so then this week, I just love how this happens. I have all this wisdom. And then we had a series of miracles here at Unity that was like, yep, walk your talk, sister. And I believe that they really were miracles. Miracles that invited me to walk my own talk, to trust that the divine givingness of the universe holds us all, that the way does know the way, to notice the instruction of fear and worry as they sat beside me on my shoulders, smacking my head around. And then to rejoice in the opportunity to be creative with the Creator, in partnering with that divine givingness. We don't always get the opportunity so immediately past getting an insight to put it into practice. So the first miracle that happened this week is that our furnace in the office annex died. Or rather, it's actually currently on life support. But we need to let her go. This winter, National Grid has been here, and plumbers have been here, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times. We've had little pinprick gas leaks fixed. We've had new valves installed. We've had all kinds of repairs made. But the smell, this funny smell, was still there sometimes. So that leads to the second miracle of divine guidance, divine timing, divine givingness. And I'm going to say this person's name even though he asked me not to, because it really was a miraculous undertaking. So our friend Bob Zima, who hadn't been to Unity in a little while, had been feeling called to explore A Course in Miracles and decided to join the Tuesday morning Course in Miracles group. It meets here in person on Tuesdays, but it didn't meet in person on Tuesday because many of its members were sick. So Roger had the thought, wouldn't it be funny if today is the day that somebody comes to this for the first time in person? It's a good thing I'm here to let them in and let them know there's no group today. And that person just happened to be Bob, who retired at the end of January with a lot of years, many, many years of experience in the HVAC field. Bob was the random person who showed up on our doorstep with this weird smell in the building, said, well, let me go home and get my tools and let's see what's going on. It was Bob who came back that day for the most recent visit from the National Grid guy, who I think we're probably going to have to invite to our Thanksgiving potluck at this point. When they walked around with their sensors, the exhaust where the furnace comes outside was 4,000 parts per million of carbon monoxide. Outside. That's one of the miracles. There was carbon monoxide in and out of the building. None of us were harmed. That's one of the miracles. And another miracle, Bertha, thank you, hang in there. Bertha is what we call our beautiful furnace downstairs, who's like 100 years old. She's working at 50% capacity, but honey, we love you. Another miracle. It's not Bertha. But the major miracle is the shift in perspective that begins with our leadership team on the board, with me and Reverend Roger, as I hope something that will be a spark. And that spark started, sorry Mary, I'm going to call you out in as well, So on Thursday night, we had our final meeting of this iteration of the Board of Trustees, saying goodbye to Carol and Peggy and Diane, the other Diane Davis Schneider, who are stepping off this year. Before next week, we welcome in our newest members of the board. And before we met, Mary sent a little message, because God was talking to her at night and through the night, and she woke up with some real clarity. And she said, "Last night before I went to bed, an idea popped into my head, and it was there again to greet me as I awakened this morning. We love this church and community! Exclamation point. When a need arises, we as a people do what we can. We can do this together. As board co-president, I commit to making a significant contribution to the Furnace Fund. I'm in the process of discerning what is the right amount for me, and I encourage each of us to prayerfully discern what is ours to do." By the end of our meeting, we were actually excited. Now, we went round about some different ways to bring this message to our beloved community, but we were really excited about our chance as a leadership team, supported by the miraculously timed showing up of Bob, the understanding that this is not a need that can wait. You all came in there. It is very cold out in that office annex. But the real, true miracle was our sense of excitement, of rejoicing in this opportunity to show up in our role as the spiritual holders of this community to say, we're planting the first seed. We're sparking the first gifts. And then I received a message from a member of the building and grounds team when I shared that idea, and it is this. Thanks, Sam. The church is not cared for by a separate group of parental figures who make sure the church is running in a healthy way, but rather by a collection of individuals who share in a communal spiritual effort to maintain this community. And we are all in it together. We're all in it together. In every kind of givingness that this community needs, we're in it together. So our little circle within the big circle of the leadership team, we have committed to $3,200 from our spark. And it's not the number. The number in many ways, the need in many ways, is totally secondary. That's why that furnace going out is a miracle, because it led to that sense of, oh, God is the divine givingness of the universe, and my whole being is one with the divine flow. That was not just a good talk a few weeks ago that bit me this week to say, did you mean it? Did you mean that you're walking with me in everything? Can you sense the worry about how will it happen to get fixed? Can you feel it? Of course, we had to find some, I say we. Bob took one look at my face as he was saying, like, well, you could look at this kind of a furnace and this kind of a furnace and this kind of furnace. And I'm like, how about you just are an honorary member of the building and grounds team? And Bob has offered his expertise, his experience to walk us through so that when we look at what those options are, we can feel secure that we're going to pick the best one for us. But again, we are a community that has created something that is radically out of step with the noise of the world. I was introduced to a concept that I'm going to explore further. by a teacher and writer, Meg Wheatley. We are an island of sanity in a world that often feels like it has lost its marbles. This community, we don't just say that vision and mission because it's what we do on a Sunday. We have embraced those words, we've embraced our values, we've embraced the ability to learn together what it means to show up as a beloved community, as a community that offers each other a place of safety, a place of welcome, a place where we get to explore who we are and who we are called to be. We are a miracle. This community is a miracle. We are a mundane miracle of individual expressions of God being us, showing up together. Our presence makes a difference. It makes a difference to each other, and it makes a difference when we leave here in all of the ways then that our circles circle others. We then grow other islands. When we strengthen each other here, we grow other islands of sanity in a world that calls out for the transformation that we say we are a part of, that we live as part of. And so I invite you this week to remember, like I have had to remember, that I've been invited to remember, that I've been miraculously reminded to remember, of all of the many ways you show up as divine givingness. And as I invited us on that Sunday in February a few weeks ago, there are so many ways. We can give smiles to strangers. We can give patience and understanding and truth-telling in our relationships. We can give space between cars when we are in traffic. We can give by centering in quiet and letting ourselves be led by that voice that whispers as God being us. We can give to our Mother Earth by making choices that heal and sustain our fragile, beautiful planet. We can give so that soup kitchens and food pantries and war and suffering and oppression are obsolete. We can give from the ground of our being. And then, of course, I invite you to prayerfully discern how you too can step into this mundane miracle of a broken down furnace and help meet this need that arose so perfectly timed for us to, as a community, walk our talk. For me as your minister to walk my talk and to invite us in all of the ways that we do show up, to recognize that that actually is also one of the ways. It's how we mind that gap that I showed a few weeks ago of what this year and our fiscal safeguarding of our gifts means. We are a miracle as a community. And next week, that annual meeting is a celebration of that. And Diane, thank you for reminding people that whether you are a current member or not, you're all welcome to that meeting. It's a way to celebrate and recognize the gift of the life we are as a community. And yes, we will vote in our 3 wonderful new board members, 2 of whom will hold a 3-year term and 1 will hold a 1-year term, depending on how the mundane miracle of e-voting and in-paper voting works. Come and be a life, a part of the life, even more, of this community. Come and be fed with lunch, come and be fed with friendship, come and be fed as we are every week. And at that annual meeting, we'll have a special collection that will be for the Furnace Fund. And in between then, if you want to do a check, put Furnace Fund on that. If you donate online, you can put a little note in PayPal and that kind of thing. But show up in every way that God calls you. Show up as love. Show up as kindness. Show up in ways large and small for each other, because that is how we have created the miracle of who we are as a community. And so it is. Amen.